No, is there, I don't, yeah, there we go. Okay.
Ooh, we got a first question. Any orgs in the greater Boston area using KAIROS broadcast stations? I think DairyCam is the closest one, right?
Yep, Derry, New Hampshire, at least.
Yeah, for Boston, that is.
Mhm.
There's quite a few went out through like New York City and other areas. But
When you send me the recording, I will acknowledge it and tell you that it's posted, because it gets posted on our YouTube site. So it won't be up until I have a chance to post it.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, and that's it's always kind of fun, at least over the past couple of years, whether it's a Teams meeting, like we're doing now, or a Zoom meeting, or some people do the the variety of things. What's pretty cool, and we'll talk about it, is how KAIROS, the platform, can actually integrate Zoom, Teams meetings, with camera feeds, and pull them out as independent sources, and then broadcast them. So that's pretty interesting stuff.
One little housekeeping tip possibly to suggest to the viewers is because this is Teams and there is no restriction on turning mics on and off, but to request that the audience do turn their mics off in the event that we have any background noise or interference.
it's a good note.
And it's 6:59. One moment. We'll be on in a minute. Good evening, everyone. This is Marty Feldman, chair of the SMPTE New England section, and we have a very special program tonight. Our guests tonight, speakers, are Rick Lamb from Panasonic and Gregor Jones from Panasonic. Gregor is the Northeast area sales representative for Panasonic and has had various jobs with Panasonic over the many years that I've known him, and pretty much of an expert on the motion picture area too, aren't you, Gregor?
I try to be.
Okay. He's got behind him some antique cameras there, motion picture cameras. You can take a look at. I see an old Bell and Howell up there.
Right.
And our major presenter for tonight is Rick Lamb. And Rick's enjoyed many years of experience in the production switcher engineering and operations area, and has been with some pretty major companies, including Ampex and Abacus. Remember Abacus? Philips, BTS, Grass Valley, and of course now Panasonic. And he is the key Panasonic representative for the new KAIROS system, which you could think as somewhat of a studio in a box. And this is I would say, somewhat new for Panasonic, is because they've always been famous for designing great switchers and all the way up to the full broadcast range. I've had experience with some of their intermediate and smaller switches over the years, and things that go into broadcast trucks and things like that. And they've always made a great product. This is somewhat new. I don't think many people in our field think of them as a studio in a box type product, but this is even more than that. It goes beyond that and also goes heavily into IP. And of course, Rick will be telling you a lot more about it. We thought it was definitely worthy of a whole meeting tonight. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Rick Lamb on the Panasonic KAIROS system. Rick?
Marty, thank you, and thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, we're super excited. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my camera off because I'm gonna be doing some live feeds, and then I'm gonna share this screen.
And Rick, while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to show up tonight. Hopefully you'll get a lot out of this. We're going to do more than show you some slides. Once Rick gets through the data here, we're going to go into a real live demo, and it should be pretty fun. Also, if you're familiar with Teams, there's a chat section right up there at the top, kind of towards the right-hand side. If you want to drop any kind of questions into that chat while we go along, I'm happy to receive those, and hopefully this can be pretty conversational. Feel free to ask questions along the way. You can also save your questions till the end, and in that same chat section, I'll post our contact information so you can keep the conversation going, keep asking questions. We really hope you enjoy it, and thanks for coming. Rick, it's all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Gregor. KAIROS has been in development for quite a while, and there's a lot of backing and significant engineering that's gone into it. And when we talk about it, initially, production switcher, but it really does go beyond that. So we depict the KAIROS platform, and just by the way, I've only got a few PowerPoint slides, and then we're just going to dive into some live applications. But we depict this as a hub and spoke, where traditionally you picture a production switcher. It has all the inputs on the left side and all the outputs on the right side, etc. Well, we're talking a lot more now with robotic cameras, tallies, intercoms, audio, multi-display, screen management, etc. So it's really kind of steps those bounds, but it is in the sense of a production platform. So if we think about it in the world of production switchers, traditional production switchers out there have the SDI, the coax transport. It goes into your ME-based, keyer-based production switcher. Still a lot of them out there, still useful. Panasonic has those as well as many others, and so it's a value, and everybody's familiar with it. Well, over the recent years, the step to the next generation, if you will, was to bring IP transport. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about live, uncompressed production here, not streaming switchers. So the IP world just opened up a huge amount of capability with remote applications, kind of moving away from the crosspoint routing, etc. But the production switchers are still mix effects based. They're FPGA hardware based. So what KAIROS brings is IP transport, of course. It's a great advantage of capability, but now we've gone to a software-defined GPU-based platform, and it just opens up a lot more capability. It can be simplified to what everybody's familiar with, but it really just opens up a lot of capability. So really, the main pieces of what we talk about, what we're going to show today are, number one is it's a server, the KAIROS core. There's two options. You got a 1-rack unit server and a 2-rack unit. These servers are, we kind of caution to say that they are off-the-shelf components. They are, but Panasonic QCs them. They're kind of locked in, and it's not intended to be just built. But there's other topics there. But these core servers are Linux operating system, enterprise based, 24/7. So it's a solid server. And then controlling that, the user interface is KAIROS Creator. And this application, the software key, can run on a Mac or a PC, and it's Photoshop like. It's familiar. It's super easy to work with when you're dealing, but keeping in mind it's all live, uncompressed, that we're going to show you. So KAIROS creator, and then we offer a control panel, a precision built hardware control panel. Now we say it's optional, because there's so many ways you can get into a production, to do either simple things or complex. You can do it virtually, but the hardware control panel is, as you see in this picture, familiar looking. It's but it goes way beyond a typical panel. And again, I'll be showing that a little bit later. But the key points of everything that you'll hear about and see are, this is based on a GPU, software driven. It's uncompressed video. Now, that's not to say we can't take streams in. We can take uncompressed, but internally it's all a bucket of bits uncompressed. And the really key point is the low latency. It's just 1 frame processing delay throughout the process. Now, with the power of a GPU, you basically have unlimited layers. Now, what we mean by that is there's no restrictions. It doesn't matter how many MEs you have or how many keyers per mix effects. It's really, that's just kind of goes out the window as far as limitation. Now the GPU, can manage a certain amount of transitions and simultaneous outputs, etc. So, there is there is a limitation there, but it really does go beyond the biggest ME switcher that's out there today. And then you can mix and match pretty much anything. So the core of the server is based on ST2110, SMPTE 2110 confirmation or conforming, but you can bring in 4K, HD. We can even do 8K now. It's consuming, but HDMI, SRT is pretty awesome. I'm going to explain later. NDI inputs and outputs. So it's really a mix and match anything and everything. And then it's super easy to set up, to build, to customize as needed. So, when we look at a GPU software base compared to an ME conventional switcher, the TDs out there are just super familiar. They know all the tricks. They know how to do re-entries, how to take certain keyers, copy a keyer from here to there, and get and again, that's familiarity, and we can kind of set up like that. But as you do DVEs or PIPs, picture in pictures, you do start to add and stack delay for each DVE effects. Whereas when you're taking just a bucket of bits or the GPU, there's once you add a DVE in there, it does add 1 frame of delay. So now we're talking about 2 frames delay, but that's maximum. So you can have 10, 20 pips or DVEs in there, and it's only 2 frames delay. So it's really, live, uncompressed capability. Now, if we were to build a system, there's a number of ways to get inputs and outputs to the core server. So the server has, we use DeltaCast. There's a gateway card built in. This is, a simple entry level. You can bring in SDI inputs and outputs, HDMI, can even go 4K. So this is one method to just, get into that world of KAIROS. But also keep in mind, over a gigabit network, you have NDI inputs times 2 SRT streams can be brought in, RTMP, RTSP, all brought into, and then internally multi-viewers. We'll look at that later as far as that capability, but multi-viewers don't consume inputs or outputs. But there's kind of this is new, so just you know, a unique device from Imagine, the Selenio SMP has the 100 gigabit. It's kind of the hybrid ST2110, if you will, into the core. But this device gives you you know, the flexible inputs and outputs, whether it's SDI, HDMI, 4K. So it's just kind of a unique device, and it provides timing, PTP. But again, just keeping in mind, these are different scenarios to build inputs and outputs. So we can go into a full ST2110 network capability, where you have the essence, the content in a 100 gig network switch, all on the peripheral. And you know, there's a lot more devices are ST2110 native out of the devices, including Panasonic cameras, Panasonic PTZ cameras, have the you know, SFP fiber. But the you know, as long as it's 2110 capable, just any number of 100 gig network switch will, you know, provide plenty of I/O into the KAIROS core. We use built-in as a Mellanox NIC, 100 gig dual port NIC with NVIDIA GPU. But keeping in mind that you know, you can mix and match all these different scenarios. Now, don't, you know, not to be confused with all these line drawings that you see, and it looks pretty spread out. The fact is, the picture here is a full hybrid configuration that has the network switch, the core server, a PTP generator for precision time protocol, gigabit. So you can see it's compact, so it's really not consuming a ton of rack space as far as a configuration. But just to throw it out there, you know, looking at different ways to get ins and outs and in the world, obviously ST2110 or on the network side is, you know, just opens up the world to many sources. And then built into the core is we have the, you know, the gateway cards, so we can bring in you know, plenty of inputs. Now to get to applications, and I'm going to demonstrate that shortly. You know, the remote model where you can place cameras, content all out remotely, just over fiber connections back to a head end. And what I'll demonstrate shortly is the ability to access that head end remotely, even over public internet, efficiently with low latency and control. So, you know, again, different applications, just pictorially, we like Riedel. Riedel makes the Fusion box, which, you know, a simple fiber connection to the network can give you in a remote application or a multi-purpose room, you know, SDI inputs and outputs, mixed with HDMI, mixed with internet, mixed with Genlock. So it's really you know, this is showing the advantage of the IP transport and content. And cores, these server cores can be linked together to provide even more capacity, remote sharing, you know, mirrored campus deployments. One of the, you know, in my opinion, just kind of opens up with the power of GPU processing is screen management. You know, there's more and more of these needs for video walls, these LED displays, projector displays that are not 16 by 9. They, you know, whether it's a portrait or a 32 by 9 aspect ratio, the KAIROS, because of the GPU, can just simply, that's part of the outputs available, is to manage screens with different canvas options. So you know, it eliminates the whole need for a multi-screen processor and the expense that goes with that. But this example that you see here, internal to the KAIROS, is the as a 32:9 production. Well, that whole canvas, if you will, can be sent to these separate outputs, and you can cross boundaries live. And again, you'll see that example of this coming up later, where it's just dynamic, and it does go beyond what typical ME-based switchers can do. So another part of ST2110 is AES 67 audio, which gives a full transport of audio. So built into the KAIROS and the GPU is audio mixer option. And so this is full capability with shuffle of 16 inputs per channel per input. We've got EQ support coming. Dante interface is important. So we're set up for those types of interfaces. And then the hardware control panel, it really, in appearance, it looks like a 2ME production switcher. And it is, and it can be set up that way, just to be familiar. You can do 8 keyers per ME if that's how you want to call it. But I'm going to show you how it just goes way beyond what you would think in a production switcher panel, and how you can go beyond 4, 5, 6 MEs, whatnot. So it's really far beyond a traditional switcher when we get into what the GPU or KAIROS calls, or what we call scenes. So just to summarize, then there's a lot of devices, automation out there. There's things that need to have access, whether it's timed to control the KAIROS platform. And so it's a full open REST API. And this is just an example where you can open up any browser that's on the network, dial into the KAIROS, and you have access to every, whether it's macros, changing sources, transitions, and whatnot. So it's a full access to the platform. So with that, I'm going to break away live. I don't know, Gregor, is there any questions or anything we need to address at this point?
So I don't see any questions in the chat box there. So, please, again, if anyone would like to ask questions along the way, go ahead. And just remember, as we get into this live demo, to please keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle.
Rick, I just have, as Marty, I just have a comment, because I think it's notable that this is Linux-based. Because personally, I've contacted places that say that's the only way they would go into the IP world.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Very good. I mean, it is enterprise server for sure, and that is kind of the way things are going. And just to have it molded, if you will, with the software to be focused on live production, video and audio and screen management. It's Linux based. It's got redundancy that we're developing, so it's definitely an important aspect to the core. All right, so let me describe what you're seeing here on a couple of points. One is I'm sharing with you my second screen to a KAIROS Creator laptop that I have here in my home in New Jersey. KAIROS Creator that you see here is on my first screen, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. It's super simple. But what's unique is the KAIROS core that's located in this case, I'm going to pull these up. This is our live shots from Newark, New Jersey, Panasonic Studios, and so you're seeing on the right side is the rack and our control room. I'm accessing that live. Those streams that are coming back to me are encoded SRT, secure, reliable transport in the core. And my KAIROS creator, and this is all over public internet, my KAIROS creator laptop has an SRT decoder. And so you see these two different streams here that I'm sharing on the second screen. And just to prove a point, obviously our live shots don't have a lot of motion. There's nobody in the studios at this time of day. So we have various sources coming in for examples. But if we were to look at, in this setup, taking two streams, we have a program on the right and a preset on the left. A traditional setup, and you have your fader, you can do dissolves. But if we were to go a little more advanced, we can do these different types of wipes. Again, I'll get into it. But what I want to point out to you is on the top of what you see there is an exact replica of the hardware control panel. So that's, in this case, it's virtual. We don't have it commercially available, but it is the replica of a hardware control panel. So it is going out SRT and controlling the core server, and you can see it's less than half a second latency from action. And there's absolutely no way you could do a live production or try to tweak things or try to adjust or set up with anything more than a second. But this is just, in my opinion, is phenomenal. The latency that I'm getting to my home, controlling that core server and then sending back out to you over Teams is pretty phenomenal. But again, if we look at these live shots, so we have our control room studios here, and I can show you, we have full control of these shots. So we can zoom in. That's a control panel. It's a little bit of a look at our our studio there, where we show off track and dolly systems. So we've got a lot of things going on in our studios. So if we were to, let's move that back and look on the right side, the rack. Let's focus in just on the KAIROS side. So I'm actually again remotely controlling our cameras that are live shots. So what you see on the right here, and in fact let's minimize this just to bring our program output. So that server, the one rack unit server on the top, is what I'm controlling right now live. We have another 2 rack unit. That's our KC1000. That's used for other demos and examples, but I've got live access to this one. So let's focus now a little bit on the control panel. Oh, and there's of course we've got other studio shots that we can do live remotes, but as you all know, not much you can do without a lot of motion. So what's available to the server, we've got sources coming in, RAM recorders, just to give you some examples of content. But if we look at the control panel, so in this case, it's set up to be pretty much like a traditional program preset, right? So that's what you see here. We can do transitions, whether it's with the fader, dissolves. We can set up, an auto transition of push and pulls. Pretty straightforward. We can get a little more advanced with stinger wipes. Different types of wipes using RAM recorders that you see here. In this case, on the program preset, you can hear it in my tone. It's kind of boring, but I want to translate to you that it's traditional, familiar. Everybody knows how to use it, and I'll get to some pretty cool stuff in a minute. But in the transition panel, in this case, I just have 3 keyers set up. But you see, it's open for we can go up to 8 keyers in just the transition panel if desired. But let's look at what happens with the control panel. So if I move to, maybe it's hard for you to see, but this I call a two box, right? So it's a scene, but you notice deck A, or ME1, if you want to call it that, unfolds to, in this case, the two box effect. So it's all set up where we can set these transitions. You'll see on the the left box, just as you change sources, will change and do a wipe pattern, or the right box, can do a different type of transition, or we can go to the transition panel and maybe do some more advanced type wipes in that two box effect. But it's all here. I haven't reached up really beyond that. And we can do things like extract one box, take it back in, pull out the other box, etc. So again, not really advanced as far as what people are used to, but just keep an eye on ME1 and the deck as we move forward. So if I go to a three box, same idea. You can have this whole deck set up to make your transitions. The upper left box or the lower right box, etc. And that's really kind of just opens up, a little bit more advanced capability, but it unfolds that deck A up there. So I'm gonna break away from that production completely and go into something different. So let's go to, in this case, you'll see on the ME, I have, and to be, this is all RAM recorders right now, internal RAM recorders that are looping back this choir concert. So I'm simulating a 3-camera shoot here, right? So we have, the main choir, we have the boys ensemble, the girls ensemble, and the choir. So these, we can start, getting more advanced, but I have what's called a 5-box effect here. So this 5-box, again, you'll see deck A unfolds, that gives us the capability to now kind of start to introduce. Now each one of these are crops, pulled out of the camera shoots. And we can start to get into a little bit more advanced effects, introducing the 5-box here, as you see. Let's pull that back and let's go a little more advanced in this production. And, as I go through this, you'll see how I'm building up to a few different things. But now in this case, I call it a 7-box, but let's call it the grand finale of our choir concert. So we're going to bring in all 7 of these layers, if you will. So the transition panel up here gives you full access to do, all these things. And now you can go a little more advanced and, we can do maybe something that's not necessarily realistic, but you can see we're doing DVE transitions, all together, all layers at the same time for this choir concert. I mean, we can, this is just, showing 14 keyers, where you can just build this deck so you can manage 14. But now we're going to break away and go into something completely different. And we'll talk about social media. In this case, it's a Teams meeting that in this case, it was pre-recorded, and we can talk about how to do that. But again, you see how Deck A or ME1 unfolds to cater to this production. So in this case, we can pull out each one of those crops independently at any time. We can go over, grab this one, for example. With introductions. Now you notice the background desaturates, defocuses as you introduce these people, and there are ways that through NDI sources you can extract individual cameras. So there's a lot you can do with social media and Teams integration. So far so good. Any questions we need to address?
Nothing in the chat so far.
All right, let's move on to.
There was a Danielle Scalzo says hello from Chicagoland, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to. So that gives you an idea of how program preset it just opens up, and you can do a lot more than that. But let's go a little step further. Again, this is what you're seeing on screen is KAIROS Creator. So there's it's a real simple layout where we can go through input settings and stills and RAM players, and we can dive into that more deeply later. What I want to step up to is these two outputs that are SRT streams. That's what you're seeing on my screen. I'm going to set them up just to show you multi-viewers. So we've got now on those output the internal multi-viewers. And so these multi-viewers are quite flexible. You can put in clocks. Down here you see a GPU meter, but as we go into each of those productions, you'll notice how we get tallies on the sources they're actually on air. So it's super flexible. If we look at, let's look at the layout real quick. What you're seeing here, if I go to program, and we can just transition that, but you see the one box, so you can program and set these up just dynamically live any way you want. You can save them in different ways. So, it's super flexible. There's factory presets, you got user presets. Now, if I was to go, for example, to that choir concert, I built a multi-viewer that's specific on our choir concert. So let's go back to our aux bus, and I'll take output 16, but back to program, and let's look at our 5-box effects. So what you see here is multi-viewer specific for this whole production that we're doing. And as things transitions, tallies, so you see how dynamic and easy that is to set up these multi-viewers. And I've got one I'll show you a little bit later, but let's put these back to program outputs, which is program preview. So internally, I'm gonna kind of get to a real key point here. So internally, I built a program which is 32:9 aspect ratio. It's a canvas option. So I'm gonna put that up on those two separate outputs. You can see it's all kind of mix match. I've got a macro that basically it corrects the outputs. So now you see the two separate outputs, right? And if this was a video wall, LED wall, projection wall, you can merge those, and now you have these three separate simultaneous live productions going on. So as I mentioned, on the left side, we have our 2-box effect that we can completely live, independent. If we go to our 7-box, which is crossing boundaries, we can do that live, simultaneous. We've got our Teams meeting going on, so again, we can start to do the whole production. So one point here is the fact that this is independent, simultaneous productions going on. And most switchers just can't do that. So it's really unique. Number two is if we're dealing with screen management, to cross the boundaries live as we're doing here. I will show you, I'll come over here to KAIROS Creator in the scene that I call 32:9. We can grab these independent pips. So in this case, if I grab this one, you can't see it here, so I'm going to move this off screen so you can get a better view of that. But we can just transition these pips, no problem, crossing the boundary. We can, grab, for example, this one, set it up. So independent productions, we can go in and take these the titles independently. So see how easy that is. It's really quite flexible to set up. A live production that's something familiar, common, or something that you would normally do live. So I'll go a step further as far as screen management. Unless any questions we need to address at this point?
None that I see, but does anybody have any questions that aren't necessarily in the chat? They may be holding them for the end, Rick.
All right, so let's I'm gonna go into this. It was a project we were working on past couple of weeks that we're dealing with multiple displays. So I'm gonna set up let's go to aux 16, and I'm gonna go to what I call the pillar. We'll get to that in a minute. aux 15, we're going to go to multi-viewer. Multi-viewer 1. I'm going to set the layout to this pillar effect. And let's take that off screen, turn this off. So what I want to show you here on the program monitor is basically 4 columns. Okay, so and those have independent outputs. Let's put something different in there. I'm going to also show you how the control panel can instantly change profiles. So in this case, instead of our program preview, we can set up and go to profile number 2, which I've developed just for this scene, which I call pillar. So okay, so now each one of those outputs can be completely independent of each other. Different sources going to those displays, whatever that might be. Right. So, or we, in this case, we just keep them all on whatever program is output. But you can bring those together. And in this case, I use a macro. So you see on the right side, they come together, and we're crossing the boundaries of those 4 completely separate outputs feeding the display monitor, and expand it. So, okay, that's relatively easy. But now if we were to do something like, I'm going to turn those off, and I've got, I just built this the other day. It's a little crude, but it's just shows you these columns, right? It's a chroma key, just a simple layer. Let's bring that back on, and if we collapse it, they fit, right? Or let's say in this case, the customer at one part of the week, they wanted to have just one big display, with these 4 columns pushed together, so they can have a big iMag or whatever that display might be. On another day, they want to push them off onto the side, into these columns, so it's more like a window, if you will. Well, we can do that, as you see here, but you see how if we were to, I'll bring this wipe, so you see how that's not matching up because we've separated the each column. So each one of those layers has what's called a virtual PTZ effect, and you can just through calculation map out what the distance is of the width of those columns, and in this case we just set it up, and so now you see how it fits as if it was a window into that side. So it just shows how quick and easy you can adjust for, you know, unique futuristic type of displays. So if we were, you know, again, if we let's turn the columns off and squeeze these back together, you see how it's obviously it's not matched. So in this case, we correct it. And that's screen management. All right.
Well done.
So we'll do just a quick review of KAIROS Creator here, just to show you what's available internally. So inputs, this is where you can set up if it's ST2110, SDI, NDI, stream, etc. Super flexible outputs. In this case, we've got two that are going SRT over public internet, and you know, aux buses. But there's also you know, you can set up the control panel. There's scenes that I showed you there. We've got the 2-box scene that shows you the layers, gives you source selection on those. So it's really quite simple to manipulate. We have, you know, the pillar function, 32 by 9 as mentioned. So it's Photoshop like, super easy. You can, you know, keyboard shortcuts, super quick to build effects and to be able to do these type productions. Painter inside, there is a paint generator in here that we can I'll show you. So for example, a lot of the titles you saw in those effects can be all built in here. You can import graphics, audio mixer capability, transitions. So it's that's a pretty much a quick overview of KAIROS platform. You know, hopefully there's questions that we can dive into deeper at some point in the future. Certainly contact Gregor Jones or myself, and we can take a much deeper dive into these productions.
Hey, Rick, so we do have a question here from Russell. Hey, Russell, good to see you're on. Is Genlock of SDI sources required, and does it influence the latency? That's a good question.
Good question. Yeah, it does not. So if let me pull up the one diagram. If we're just doing the SDI inputs and outputs, this will free run and at Genlock, so it is a frame latency. However, there's one caveat, and that's when we're doing, you know, SRT, like I just showed you, it really does require a Genlock to make those, you know, those SRT streams synchronized. As far as the SD, HDI, you know, inputs and outputs, no, they free run. They can lock in within a frame. When you do go to a network application, like you see in this picture, PTP is pretty critical to maintain clocks, everything. So Precision Time Protocol is going to provide Genlock to everything pretty much, including the core devices outside. Does that answer the question adequately?
I think so. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got
yes. He said
I've
yes.
got one, Gregor. It's Marty again.
Hey, Mike.
And if you haven't done it, I would suggest it would be to produce a series of in-depth training videos, you know, on YouTube or whatever, or from your websites that start with basic and go all the way through for different level users and applications.
We do actually have something like that in the works, Marty. We also, if you take this on as a customer and you want one, you can get on, hands-on training as well. But good suggestion. I like that. In fact, when those videos start rolling out, I'll keep you abreast of them.
Thank you.
We got someone typing in here. That training. Oh, Daniel says he is hoping to help Panasonic with that training. Send Rick an email.
Yeah.
Any comments or suggestions, or maybe it's not a question. Maybe you just have some some comments maybe about the technology, and I understand that it is a little bit different than kind of what's out there. And as Rick mentioned, this is kind of some forward thinking, and kind of giving you an idea where Panasonic's head's at, and where we're heading. I love what he mentioned there about the Photoshop part of it, because Rick, it is like that. It's doing to video what Adobe did with Photoshop to photos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point, Gregor.
Gregor, what about integration with broadcast automation systems?
Yeah, Rick would probably be a better one to take that question.
Yep, yeah.
But absolutely, yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, so there's the KAIROS has a full out RESTful interface, REST API that's available so far. I think Ross has the interface, and there's a few others. I'm just trying to remember what we have, but it's totally open interface to access any transition, any switch, any function. So it's available.
Hey, Rick, so Russell asked again, is there a built-in CG, or are the graphics all created outside?
Can be both. So let's talk about the internal graphics for now. So whenever you build a scene, there's you have this painter example here. So if we look at some examples, so this is just an example of the internal. These were built. You can position, move things around, create your own, dynamically change the names. You can add clocks. You can import. So these painters are internal. And you can build them, and they're it's not super advanced. You can make them look pretty good. If we look at these different ones that you've seen before, but the idea is you can import graphics to conform to a look, but also as an NDI input. If you had a live graphics system, you can use NDI and it has alpha channel. So it does integrate with external, more advanced graphics generators. What we did in in a lot of these, just to create those, it's really simple to take this. Let's call it a canvas, even though it's not irregular shape. But the idea is you can just set crops and extract, each one of those titles that we did here, and then they're totally dynamic. You can position them anywhere, just using a crop.
Ooh, here's a good question. So Tim asks, can the CG take in data streams and feeds, for example, scoreboards, RSS, etc.? That's a really good question.
That would be like, for example, an NDI input. No problem. With here, this is more of a static image, but you can import an image. Let me see if I can find it. And there's a whole variety of formats. Let's see if we want to. New shapes, new text. So in this case, we want to add. Yeah, I have to find out where that setup is. Anyway, I'm trying to find where it is, but you can import, a variety of images. And what we're working on is, so for example, if we take this image called Crossing Boundaries, we're trying to bring in that that live stream that's going to change the text, from instead of crossing boundaries, outside. So even though I can't spell very well, I think you get the idea. I was able to just dynamically change that side.
And Rick, that's 2 NDI inputs, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Great question. Last one, were you moving the PTZ cameras from the KAIROS, or was that an outside tool? Another great question.
From the KAIROS, so
Yep.
I'll show that. Let's go back to let's get back to our program. So if we pull up KAIROS Rack, now in this case I was just recalling presets, and in the on the hardware panel you see this whole section is with the joystick. So if, for example, on the program we have the rack and studio, we just go to PTZ. I know that's very hard for you to see there, but I've got control here, and then I've got access to that PTZ from the panel directly. So in the
And on
case,
the hardware one, that's a joystick, right?
yeah, so yeah, right. It's much more accurate. This is again just a simulation of of the hardware panel, but you have full dynamic access, and it's not just PTZs, but if we were to if there's a crop, and we're messing around with the 2 box, for example, you can go in here and kind of just move those crops around, or transitions. So it's really dynamic, and this whole transition joystick side unfolds just like the MEs would as you select different complex scenes. So you have all the choices that will show up here. Select these choices, or in this case we want to go to let's go to the 7 box up here, and then so forth. But yeah, so it is full control of PTZs, presets, and I can show you if we look at these inputs. So the inputs, for example, I have the rack, or I call it the KAIROS rack. You have full shot box, and this is all KAIROS Creator. So this is where you can recall presets or set presets, and then you just program a macro to trigger that as needed if it's within a shot, or that macro. Well, that's a good point. So macros are pretty powerful. And, I have the camera PTZ macros set up in the control panel in this section, but we can easily take those macros and program them into any one of these buttons for quick trigger as well.
Ted's asking, what is the PTZ protocol that we're using? So I assume we're using it for Panasonic, but could you use other PTZs?
It's just it's Panasonic protocol, which is open. I mean, I can't answer if that was a Canon or a Sony PTZ. I don't think so. What we can't, well, I can't answer that directly. However, it does bring up an interesting point. So in KAIROS Creator that you see here, there is a what's called triggers. And you can set up a trigger to be either an HTTP command that's going to go out on the network, or an IP command to go out on the network. So if we, HTTP, you set it up, you program it to whatever command you want to go out, then you assign that trigger to a macro. So if that other non-Panasonic PTZ, let's say, did take HTTP commands and or IP commands, no problem. You can just set it up right here in this triggers application.
But let's be honest, who would use anything other than Panasonic?
Yeah, that just complicates life.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like we've the questions have slowed down. Any last chance? I know we're getting towards the 8 o'clock. Marty, do we have a hard out here?
No, you can keep going, and you're probably even up to another half hour or so.
All right. Well, Rick, did you have anything else you wanted to go over, or is this?
No,
it's fun.
that's pretty much it. It is kind of a grand overview, if you will. There's I'm not going to say it's too easy, but training to dive deep into the KAIROS creator, it's really not hard. It's pretty straightforward layout, but I think for this evening, that's pretty much the overview we wanted to share, just to show the power of GPU and how it really does go beyond mix effects type of architecture.
Great. I wish this was the part where we got the cookies and the hot dogs and stuff. Right, Marty?
or the chowder, the famous Paul.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, clam chowder.
That's right. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Paul Chowder. The Paul Chowder.
Yeah, I do miss it. I really do.
Oh, for sure. Hey, and in the spirit of that, I just want to say that, we do have this stuff set up virtually, and, during the pandemic, it's a little bit harder, but, we're very open to, letting people play with it. We really encourage you to come back, ask more questions, especially if you have any customers or you may be a customer and would like to consider one for your own shop. We have demo units. We have engineers that can come by and help you get it plugged in and take it for a spin. You could take it for a spin virtually, and then when things calm down, I think we'll be able to start inviting people back over and give you some real hands-on. But in the meantime, always feel free to if you have an opportunity and you'd like to discuss it further, we'd be happy to take you for another virtual tour and walk you through anything. So. Recall seeing the panel. Oh, here we go. Rick, I don't recall seeing the panel emulation you're showing at the top of the screen. Can you reiterate what you said about that?
Yeah, so the hardware control panel, which is, it's when you can't really do it on a Teams meeting, but it's a really nice piece of precision built. The lights, and that, it is a good question, actually. So what you see on the top of the screen is an exact replica of the button layout of a hardware control panel, right? So, so the KAIROS creator that you see here, whenever you launch KAIROS creator, you get this control panel. This is the actual creator virtual, and it does all the same things. You can do that. So that's KAIROS creator. This is just a simulator of the hardware control panel, and the purpose of it was to show you how when you select into different scenes, how the ME1 can unfold. We call it auto delegation. It doesn't have to. You can set this up to be to look just like a regular 2ME switcher with 8 keyers per ME or whatever. But the point here just shows you how this deck unfolds. And normally, I'm doing this all on program bus, right? So normally you would set this auto delegation to happen on preview or preset bus. Preview is the monitor, preset is the bus. So if I were to go into like the 7-box on preset, that would unfold deck A to have all the controls so you can get your preset all set up for this 7-box effect, or in this case 14 keyers. So it's really for us to be able to show you over this remote Teams or Zoom remote access of what happens with the hardware control panel in reality. So this virtual panel is not commercially available. Unless you absolutely need it. There's no part number for it, but I mean it's fully functional. It works quite well. I showed you doing the whole transitions. And oh, by the way, there's a shot box here of different types of transitions. So for grab the fader. All right, so hopefully that answered that question. This is just a simulator of the actual panel.
Rick,
looks like it did.
Yeah, I have another question, Rick.
Yes.
Do you have like built-in waveform monitor, vectorscope, that sort of thing?
Ooh, good question.
Yep. No. Now what's built in is let me show you if we go to multi-viewer. So you'll see on this this display, this multi-viewer, we can plug in clocks. We have a GPU meter, and you can put color bars, but there's no waveform monitor option yet. I mean, it's got
Yeah.
audio meters. Yeah.
Sorry, Rick, I didn't mean to step on you. I was just going to tell Marty, as always, Panasonic is looking for that, what we love to call internally the voice of customer, right? So if you have any notes or really clever ideas, I mean, this is, this is one thing that we're building up and bringing out. So maybe it won't even be in this version, but maybe some of these ideas could be in a future version or easily added, like Rick mentioned, maybe
Let me add one more to that, Gregor, and I would say possibly, and it's actually being done by some manufacturers with switchers. That is software-based CCU control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just as a general note, Rick, you heard that, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to digest it. So see, as far as like painting and shading, studio camera.
Yeah, basically taking let's say the menus out of your studio cameras and allowing them to be accessed by the KAIROS.
Yeah, understood. So what you're, I guess, not within KAIROS Creator, but what you're seeing here is my laptop, right? And so my laptop does have access to Panasonic CCUs. So you have full menu access. Now, it's like I said, through an HTTP command, if you need to change something, KAIROS can do that. But I can, for example, let me see if I can. For example, we have what's called PTZ Control Center. So that's right here on my laptop. If we dial into that, we'd have full access to PTZs, paint, shade, the whole deal.
So matching cameras could be accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely, from the same PC. Now, I think I get your point, though. We want to kind of integrate, let's call them presets. Let's say we're matching up painting a studio camera, and we want to be able to store that preset or whatever.
Right, that would be great.
Yeah, that's so that would be right now, as I mentioned. Yeah, it's great question. I mean, we can, as noted, we can send these commands out HTTP or over IP under what's called triggers. So this is, we just add an IP command, for example, and we'll call it recall dark scene. And then whatever, we'd edit that, and whatever that command would go out to the CCU, set it up, etc. But yeah, so it's kind of there, but needs maybe more fully baked based on what you just asked. So thank you for that.
Sure, and I think the ability to add these to existing equipment as firmware upgrades and so on, for existing users is very important.
Yeah, no, it's we're coming across all kinds of use cases, for better integration, exactly that. So, somebody wants to kind of come in and there's not a whole crew on site, but you got cameras set up and you need to kind of get everything, recalled into what it was the night before kind of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions coming in for Rick?
Looks like Daniel says it has full proc amp painting effects on any source input like any other switcher. Plus, you could have paint controls of PTZs via IP, Panasonic's Easy IP software, right? Amp painting effects. Source input like any other switcher.
Yeah, I can show you that. Actually, it's
IP
a good.
with Panasonic's.
It's a good point. KAIROS creator. So if we pull this up and whether it's inputs or outputs, let's go to the outputs. So these two SRT outputs that we've been dealing with, you have full capability for YUV correction. So you got, you can do things on these outputs independently from each output. Or you can go and do this type of correction, whether it's YView. And another good point on that, and it just came up the other day, is one customer wants to do HDR, right? So there's no problem HDR coming as an input. So they got 4K HDR coming in, and that's great, and it'll go out HDR, etc. But they want to stream it with Rec 709. So, so right now you see on the screen we're streaming out these sources, but we don't have that, and that's being developed right now, actually, to have kind of a LUT, a lookup table for HDR, so that would go out corrected to Rec 709. So
that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Yeah, I'm glad Danielle brought that up, because I got a good reminder.
What about wide color gamut?
Yep, RGB. So we've got all the gamma settings here. I don't know if you can see that very well.
Yeah, I was actually referring to wide color gamut, not gamma, but gamma is pretty important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's in there. This is LUTs. No, I won't burn your time on that. It's a good point. There's kind of I just noticed here source substitution, which is basically a mix minus for video. So if you're broadcasting out to, let's say, New York, and there's certain sources you don't want to go out to that broadcast, you can just plug it in, build a table. But that's all. I know that doesn't answer your question about Gamut. It's just reminding me. But yeah, somewhere in here we would set the Gamut. I don't have that. We don't have that here, at least that I'm aware of.
Are the gamma settings continuously variable, or you have specific gamma settings, various gamma settings for different logs and so on.
Yeah, right now it's you dial it in, so you can see the bars here for RGB corrections, gamma red, gamma green. That's gammas, not gamut. But that would be either you dial in the number here or just adjust it.
Now, one of the things is that some of the little proxy images that I'm seeing here on my screen look like they're not at full frame rate. Is that just something that's because of you're streaming it out?
Yeah, it's Teams. So, for example, that's what I was messing with earlier to correct that. You see it's quite jumpy here, but this is totally Teams. So when I go full screen, 1, 2, 3, it's smooth. And then I drop it back down and everything's smooth. So
the other thing we've noticed too is that the more people, and we don't have a lot of people on this meeting, but the more people that get on a Teams meeting, the more resolution it seems we'll lose too. So I think there,
Okay, I just wanted
yeah.
to make sure wasn't an issue with the system.
Yeah, it's just
no, yeah,
virtually trying to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, what I'm seeing at home here is just pristine and smooth. So yeah, the little jumpy stuff you're seeing is purely a Teams meeting. Now, obviously, back at the head end, that's uncompressed, full live, but yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for
Great.
the wonderful presentation. It was quite fascinating, and I think the industry is probably headed in this direction generally. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of the related developments by everybody in the industry. So again, thank you very, very much, and of course we'll welcome you back anytime that you have something new to show us. And just to address our membership, we are looking for people to run for manager positions. And we have our nominating committee chairman in place. And if you're interested in running for any positions, please let us know. And we'll put you in touch with the nominating committee chairman and give you all the procedure you need to know to run. Also, I welcome you to our next meeting in December, which is not etched in stone, so I will not say anything about it. But if you're on our mailing list, and we have 2 mailing lists, a membership and our friends list. So if you're not on our mailing list, please let us know. Probably best to contact Paul Beck, who handles the list. And if you go to our site, you'll get all of that information, which is SMPTE-ne.org. And thank you for watching. And again, thanks to our presenters. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Good night.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
And happy Thanksgiving.
That's right. And happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.